Hear he. Kashtira Riseheart is no more. He has been slain by the Forbidden and Limited list. Graveyard decks can rest at ease. Except for the fact that Dimension Shifter still exists. So yeah, by no means is Kashtira Riseheart being banned brand new news. He's been banned for a couple of weeks now, and the list came out like 3 weeks ago. But I still wanted to talk about some of the decks that heavily benefit from him being gone that maybe not everyone is talking about. Because at the current moment, the only deck anyone is talking about is Tearlaments, because like, no duh. But realistically, with Kashtira Riseheart gone, graveyards are more consistently a resource again. Meaning that some other decks can actually maybe not be top tier by any means, but have a chance to shine again. And if nobody else, I'll be the voice for those decks. And to start, we'll go with my personal favorite on this list, Madolche. Now, by no means are Madolche a graveyard-focused deck, but a lot of the main deck monsters shuffle themselves back from the graveyard into the deck, and they even run the Ishizu Shufflers, Mudora, and Keldo. On top of that, the spells and even Chocolate a la Mode get additional effects when a Madolche card is shuffled from the graveyard back into the deck. But with Kashtira Riseheart on the board, that was just never an option. Now, the reason I'm talking about it first is because Madolche could still play through a Riseheart, they would just lose a lot of their resources, so they had to play smart. Because again, this is not a graveyard-focused deck, they just get additional benefit from having their stuff hit the graveyard. Now that being said, between this and one other deck on this list, I think Madolche also has one of the higher chances of being a little bit more playable now that Kashtira Riseheart is gone. I would even go as far to say tier 3, high tier 3, no longer rogue. However, that is just a personal opinion, and I am most likely wrong. But I'm sure we will see the occasional Madolche topping now that a Kashtira Riseheart is no more. The next one is a pretty simple one, and that is ABC. Now, ABC likes its resources to be banished, but on its own accord. ABCs are not once per turn, and they like to hit the graveyard so that they can activate their effects to do searching, summoning, yada yada yada. But also on top of that, later at the end of the turn, they want to banish those resources to summon out ABC Buster Dragon. However, when Kashtira Riseheart was existent, if he hit the board, you just really couldn't do that. You had to use the resources on your board or just not summon out Buster Dragon in general. Now, ABC has always been a decent rogue strategy deck, a deck that always just randomly kind of shows up, you don't expect it, and it just kind of beats your shit in. That being said, even with Kashtira Riseheart gone, I don't foresee this deck making any extra appearances. It's a really good deck, however, it just can't keep up with the current format. But moving on, we of course have another favorite of mine, and that is the Plunder Patrol. Plunder Patrol is a deck that definitely could not play under Kashtira Riseheart. If he hit the board, you just kind of scooped and moved to game 2 or 3. And that is because all of the main deck monsters want to hit the graveyard. When Whitebeard hits the graveyard, he specials a Plunder from deck. When Golden Hair hits the graveyard, she can special summon herself back later in the turn if you choose to. When Redbeard hits the graveyard, he can equip himself to a Plunder monster on the board. And when Bluebeard hits the graveyard, you discard a card and draw a card. However, with a Riseheart on the board, none of this was ever an option, and it just kind of shut Plunder out from playing the game. And I truly believe with his removal from the game, Plunder will see a lot more play moving forward. Whether that's Plunder Adventure or Plunder Runic, it doesn't really matter. I think the deck is going to thrive a lot more, because the only thing now they have to worry about is Dimension Shifter, which, unless you're playing Vanquish Soul or Flu, I just don't foresee you playing this card in general. And now let's talk about the other most obvious rogue strategy, which I think could even be a lot more playable in even tier 3 or possibly borderline tier 2, Dark World. Dark World is a deck that had too many things to worry about when Kashtira Riseheart was legal. The obvious thing to worry about, of course, was playing against Kashtira, because if they summoned out a Riseheart, you just couldn't play the game. But not to mention on top of that, Kashtira can run Dimension Shifter. So in one deck, they had to worry about 2 things existing. But another thing that Dark World had to worry about that was being main decked in every deck during the reign of Kashtira was Droll and Lockbird. Dark World is a graveyard deck that does a bajillion draws in one turn, so it's a deck that's very fragile to stuff like Kashtira Riseheart, Dimension Shifter, and even Droll and Lockbird. If they can't draw cards and they can't activate graveyard effects, they're just not playing the game. However, like I said, with Kashtira Riseheart gone, Droll and Lockbird slowly falling out of the format, and Dimension Shifter only actually being playable in certain decks, Dark World can thrive again. Because at the end of the day, this is a hard deck to interact with. You either go first, and then you get OTK'd on turn 2, or you go second, and they hand loop you. And it's because of this that if you're not running D-Shift or Droll and Lockbird, you're going to have a hard time interacting against this deck. But that's really it. I wanted to talk about Drytron, but I'm not overly familiar with the deck. However, I do know that it benefits a lot from Kashtira Riseheart being gone. And also on top of that, Orange Light came to 3, so I'm sure they really like that as well. But as I said, I don't know enough about the deck to actually fluently talk about it. And I didn't think that'd be fair to the Drytron lovers if I talked about something that I just really don't know. But yeah, that's all I really have for you guys for this video. Leave in the comments down below maybe what decks you play that really like the disappearance of Kashtira Riseheart. Like I said, didn't want to talk about Tearlaments because that's what everyone's talking about. And didn't really want to be a broken record. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And comment down below again what decks you think benefit a lot with Kashtira Riseheart being gone. And even D-Shifter kind of slowly falling out of the meta because not a lot of decks can feasibly run it. But yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.